So I think we're live. I hope we're live. I had some issues with turn the music down a little bit with my streaming software today. And sorry for the delay. Not that anyone would care, right? I'm aware of that, but out of decency, I want to excuse myself or say sorry. All right. I actually thought about if I wanted to do a live stream today or not, because I actually was feeling really introvert because I'm kind of, how do you say that in English? Crack a big nut, drill a thick board. Oh God, already losing everyone in the first minute or so. In German we say ein dickes Brett bohren. At least I say that a lot. And what this means, and drilling a thick board to crack a nut, I think it's probably more appropriate to say to crack a nut, a hard nut, a whatever. So I'm facing bigger issues with getting things done that have to do, obviously, still with the problem or the thing, how Streamlit is built and how I want to build everything like outside of. Oh, interesting. I'm getting an issue from the streaming gods are not on my side today. Getting a streaming warning from YouTube that the connection is too slow. Stream status poor. Hey, let's see. Let's stop Google Drive, which is syncing lots of stuff, thus consuming quite a bit of bandwidth, probably. Yep, Google Drive is definitely going up. Sorry again. So the tool is trip mode. Can highly recommend it. You can basically channel which app is allowed to talk to the internet. But I'm still, even though I shut down. Oh, it's unresponsive even. Google Drive is unresponsive. So let's go to the activity monitor and kill it. Google Drive. There we are. Did you recover? No. Google Drive. There you are. Force quit. Be gone. You're not allowed to sync. And maybe I can show that here. On this bar, it should work as well. Where's my little trip app? Oh, it's not synced. Yeah, it's fine. Interesting. Here it is. So you can see that it's still showing up like that. Why? Let's quit trip mode. Just a second here. All right, that looks better. So streaming gods, I sacrificed Google Drive to you. So now please be gentle with me again. All right, now it's back to good. All right, so back to my big problem, right? And I'm always kind of wandering between doing things not quick and dirty, but quicker probably. So this is like do it fast, or do it fast. And I have this thing called do it tidy. tidily, probably. I don't know, adverbs, adjectives. If Steve Jobs is allowed to say, think different, then I'm allowed to say, do it tidy. And what I mean by that, I mean, this is not, I don't mean not spaghetti code, right? Spaghetti code. I hate spaghetti code, but sometimes it's with vibe coding, you can get away with more spaghetti code than before, but it will at some time come back and bite you. And this is basically inspired by my first love, inspired by R and the tidyverse. So I think I want to, I have neglected R for 1.5, 2 years now, but I still love the language because you can compute on the language, and it's in the best sense like nerdy. It's a domain-specific language, obviously. It stemmed out of university. It's lots of people that do applied statistics, rather data mining back when it was still called data mining. Yes, that's how old I am. Still know that term. Or machine learning, deep learning. That's kind of the sweet spot. I'd say up until machine learning. Deep learning is already, you're crossing over into Python land more and more. But for rather traditional stuff, R is, I think, still leads the pack. Interestingly enough, R seems to have not at all caught on to, like the entire community, not at all caught on to anything remotely related to AI. There's this company now called Posit. It used to be called R Studio. Huge shout out to them. They've developed so many. It's a B Corp. Shout out for that already. And they've done so much for the community. Developed so many like building block packages and infrastructure. That's and I learned so much from them. But they also, as a, let's say, like the only or one of the players that are really serious about bringing R into production. I don't see anything on YouTube or when I, like blog posts or so of them talking about AI in any way. Just interesting. I mean, it's fine. It's like a decision, I think, a strategic decision you need to take or you want to take. But coming back to the tidyverse, the tidy aspect centers around, let's see. I just want to give you at least let's maybe go to dplyr packages. Because dplyr is one of the ones that I think makes it really well, if you're not familiar with R, I mean, this would not make any sense, right? But the cool thing is the entire architecture of the tidyverse is centered around having the data frame to be the interface and or data structure. So you're making things tidy, even though you might deal with nested structure. You're not forcing them into a tabular structure, but you're doing it in the best way possible. It's a bit like the BJSON or JSON column types in Postgres, right? So it's just, and by doing that, you can run everything, you can pipelines, right? And this weird little looking thing here, let me zoom in on that. This is a pipe operator. So this is your data set. This is Star Wars. You're piping that to the filter function or method, to be more precise. Then you're filtering by only looking at species equals to droid. And you kind of do the same. You have the same interface for anything you want to do to your or with your data, right? Here we filtered. Here we basically selected certain columns. And maybe by just looking at 3 examples, you can see here we mutate stuff. So we create a new variable, a new column, that is this BMI column that takes values from other two columns, and it's just done in a tidy way. It's just compact. It's actually a joy working with that. I'm not sure how far like piping operators and this entire thing of a pipe has carried over to Python land. I think there are approaches to that, but I think it's by no means as commonplace as in R. And yeah, sorry for the little R, I love you, for the little shout out to R. What I wanted to get to is to this aspect of making things, doing things in a tidy way, right? And this is like my being torn towards one or the other side of the spectrum that I kind of operate in, or typically operate in. And sorry. And no, I lost my train of thought. As I said, I was feeling actually quite introvert, and I might not talk nearly as much as I typically do because I need to think a lot more. But maybe talking about those two sides of the spectrum, for the task at hand of getting databases to work with Streamlit just the way I want, me being able to, select easily between doing things in a synchronous interaction. I hope that's how you write synchronous. I think so though. Versus asynchronous. I want to be able to choose and not be forced to do one or the other depending on what other, tool stack I'm using for, in this case, my front end layer. And I don't know, maybe I'm just too stupid to figure it out or to have figured it out, but I was trying to get things done like hard coded or just one way in an asynchronous manner with Streamlit, and I basically failed. The code was getting more and more convoluted, and managing session state and context managers, and with what asynchronous thread or connection are you, this entire management overhead just grew like out of proportion. At least I felt like that. So what I wanted to do is to actually, or what I now decided to do is to actually be serious about doing it more on the tidy side, like trying things more on the tidy side of the spectrum. Let's maybe bring back two or choose two random messy Lego bricks. So I'm not wearing my Lego sweater without intention, basically. I've talked about this numerous times. People that know me know that I use Lego as a catch-all metaphor for lots of stuff. Let's just see. Doesn't matter really. Just take this one. So this is like rather on the messy side, basically. Maybe we can put this up here. Obviously, there is, neatly organized Lego bricks. This would definitely be rather, let's go with this one, rather in the middle at least, or rather towards definitely somewhere closer to the right. Let's put it in the middle actually. And let's actually put that further down there. And I don't know if I find the example. There's one cool robot that can basically shapeshift. Lego robot / helicopter. I used to use that example in one of my programming classes back when I was teaching. I can't find it though. Let's only do. There's like the coolest stuff out there, and obviously people that do their own. Yeah, maybe I don't think that's Lego. Doesn't matter. Let's just go with the robot here. It's is that Hurricane? Interesting. So this actually is a good example, I think, because I think that thing can shapeshift, even though, and yes, all the Lego hardcore fans, sure, it's not as cool as it used to be because there's lots of custom parts to it, right? And but still, that's what I basically want to get at. Let's make that a bit smaller here, so it's somewhat in line with the other ones. That's at least from a mental picture, that's what I want. It's rather what I want. I want to have Lego bricks that basically adapt or can be used in not just one rigid way. Let's put it like that, right? This obviously leads over or spills over to this entire notion or philosophy of anti-fragility. Ideally, those modules that I'm creating tidily or in a tidy way, now use tidily, would basically even shapeshift it's taking it way further. But let's try Lego nanobots, right? I'm fascinated by like small structures that can build bigger structure. Stylized nanobots. They're always scary looking. I don't know why. But yeah, just as a mental... No, this is not a good one. There's a Transformers movie where the nanobots basically enter. I think those ones, those are really scary looking, right? So I don't know. Maybe I'm not able to find a good mental presentation. Oh, let's actually do one thing. I mean, we are also here to have a bit of fun, right? So futuristic legion or a legion of futuristic nanobots floating in space and shape-shifting to form a stylized software module with text nanobots in cream font, light beams, and with text, blah blah blah, written on it. I don't know. You can. This is Leonardo AI, as you can see. By the way, this is the thing the app I use the most for just expressing what I want to express visually. It works quite well for me. I haven't checked back with Midjourney and all the other cool kits when it comes to image generation, but so far, since I'm able to use Flux, big shout out to Flux, German company. They're in Delaware as well, but also still in the Black Forest, I think, Black Forest Labs. Pop and dazzle, blah 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 blah. Just let me, really bad at multitasking again. So let's see what it makes. Hey Yellow, what's up? See what it makes of it. Yeah, not really what I wanted. This is probably the closest here, because you could say that those little LEDs are kind of, you could express it or interpret it as nanobots. Let's just nanobots 001. This is my image repository that I basically, oh, I'm still heavily zoomed in, I just realized. So, right, just as a mental marker, as an image or visual marker of this concept of nanobots, that would be the dream, because nanobots are so flexible that they can basically form anything, right? And I don't know if this is taking it one step too far, but I think you could also see that there's some connection of Lego bricks as an atomic element of creating anything code related, obviously, or like at least in a digital space. Let's make it actually really concrete in coding land. That Lego bricks are kind of like this unit, and nanobots are also kind of like the smallest unit that is still functioning on its own, but actually only really materializing in a bigger, having a bigger impact if they compose with other nanobots to form whatever structure you need, right? And that's basically how I think about coding, how I try to think about coding. It's kind of hard to get this done, but that's actually what I want to do. So coming back to this entire thing here, I want to get this right. I want to create at least a Lego brick, a static one, or at least one that can shapeshift in two directions, like this thing here that can be a robot and a helicopter. And for me, the one and the other is basically this, right? So this is, let's bring this up here. I basically at least want this thing to do, like this module that I want to create to do two things: synchronous database interaction and asynchronous database interaction, so that I can choose on the fly wherever I put this wherever I integrate this module, this Lego brick in another tool stack, so that I can choose which way I want to use it, basically, or which functionality I want to use. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. I haven't practiced talking about what's going on in my head. It's kind of cool and weird in the same way. So I think it helps my thinking, trying to express it. But I don't know if that makes sense to anyone out there. So yeah, just throwing it out there, basically. Yeah, cool. Jelle, happy to hear that this is a time slot that's fitting to you. I think it might be one that's also fitting for me, like right around noon, because it gives me some time in the morning so I usually start working at 8 to get some work done. Also collect my thoughts of what I would want to do in the live stream, like for me personal, but I always obviously think about what might be of interest to people watching out there. And yeah, to anyone other than Jelle that might be watching, just give me a shout out or leave a comment of what time slots would be fitting for you. I think I'm not going to move into the evening because I just cannot guarantee my energy level after like 7 o'clock German time in the evening. All right, so that's I actually decided to integrate two aspects into probably the next streams I'm going to do, which is the old one, the content of the old one of the first one or two live streams, where I talked about vibe coding, project prompt templates, and MCP servers. And more recently, I embarked on this quest. Actually, this is a reference, a pop culture reference I still need to drop. I actually started watching, what is it, Mystic Quest? Mystic Quest, Apple TV. Mythic Quest. So it's hilarious. That's where the quest basically comes from, right? Quest. If you are, I'm not a gamer per se, so I'm not that much into, I've never played World of Warcraft or anything that came after that. I just love the humor because Rob McElhenney, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, also was the writer and part of the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I love that show as well. Come on. It's just hilarious. What's the best link? Yeah, let's link to IMDb. I really love that show. I watched it 3 times now, I think, over the last... Oh, that's a bummer that it doesn't render, but I'm still leaving the... Let's do the... Oh, there needs to be something cooler than just... than just Wikipedia. I don't know. What is that? FX Networks. I think it's a... Let's try if it renders in Miro. It looks better. So here's your IMDb link. Still like IMDb to kind of watch what other people are thinking of a certain show before I watch it. It's just cool. And that's where the quest basically came from, Mythic Quest, right? Because it's going to be a quest and there are going to be side quests. So prepare for that. I try to structure it a little bit in advance, but there might be side quests here and there. Yeah, it's just managing expectations here, right? So this is, after all, Janko, what the fuck? So at some point I'm going to talk about the motivation of the name, because there is a backstory to it, but yeah, not today. All right, so I'm going to talk about the two things here, right? Because I looked at my MCP server tools. I'm quite happy with how it's going so far. It's helping me in my daily work already. But as always with me, I'm trying to spot the next possible improvement in this entire chain here, basically. And I also obviously want to go down the anti-fragility rabbit hole, basically. And that's what I'm going to do today. So with that, let's jump back into Cursor. Still haven't had the time to check how I can link my MCP server up with Windsurf, because I'm kind of drawn to Windsurf again. I just don't find the time to actually sit down at least for half an hour or an hour to actually get back into it, especially with MCP server stuff. And let's see what I'm organizing it. I'm probably going to make it really big and not have the two code projects side by side, so it's a bit easier for you to follow. Hey, where's the boundary here? Come on. I'm trying to shift that to the left, but I can't find the boundary. All right, let's kill Cursor as well for the time being, or restart it. And now we can do what I wanted to do. So Yellow, you can tell me if this is big enough. This should be big enough, right? I can always also, I try to zoom in to stuff I talk about in particular so that it's even easier. I have a huge, I think it's 48 inches screen here, so it's definitely big enough for me. And yeah, this was quite good because we are the 80 character margin here. So we should be able to see all we want to see. And then let's also bring up the second instance of Cursor that is loading the MCP server. And I'm going to switch between one and the other. Let's also make this bigger. I think this is even bigger than the other one, isn't it? Yeah. One too big. Is it? Kind of hard to... No, maybe I'm... sorry. Let's see. What's the zoom level here? That's a UX fail. Small thing, sure, but I'm not able to see the zoom level, right? So it's kind of like guesstimating if we're on the same zoom level. I think so, though. Yeah, I think I have this one further to the right. That's why. I was looking at this line as a reference here, basically. I think we'll manage. So Antifragile code, that's still the name of the folder. I actually thought about, in the best interest of... Yeah, thanks. full screen should be fine. Thanks, Yella. In the best interest of having Lego bricks, I try to actually make this database interaction and own a own package, right? That I will put on. Oh, now I'm smudging or I'm smirking because I just in my head I already went to what the name of this is, and that's the last side quest, I promise. So I'm always about naming is important to me, right? I try to name my stuff either consistently or in a fun way. So there's this one thing, there's one company that has like the coolest names of what is it? That's I need to go on that side quest because I just love how bold they are. Pop is H. It's something with SH. Let's ask Perplexity, actually. So there's this awesome company that develops terminal programs and shell stuff. And it just has the coolest, quirkiest, oldest names for what they put out. One I remember is Pop or Soda Pop. And the name of the website had .sh in it, I guess. Oh, sorry, this does not need to be a deep research prompt. Let's do that again. This can be, let's do auto. Charm. It was Charm. Charm is H. And it's just, I mean, if you know me, right, and how I like colors and how I like quirky things, this is just the best. Sorry for switching here. So they just go out and they just want to have fun with the stuff they are creating. So this is Charm. What are other apps? So there's mods. I mean, not everything is as quirky as Pop, but I just love Pop. VHS. How freaking cool is that? Like a VHS tape also as the logo. I just enjoy looking at this, right, and using it. So yeah, so I'm always drawn between doing things like naming things consistently and really going nuts with my names. I try to do a combination here, or kind of like a compromise. So my take on, as a German company or as a German guy that also has a German company, you know, also a bit inspired by, I don't know, Mistral in France that are also really quirky, and Black Forest Labs in I think I don't even know where they are, probably in Freiburg, also in Delaware now, is to just, you know, play with this German side of things. So my interpretation of tidy, or my Germanized way of saying, hey, do things tidy, is to say, hey, do things in a sauber way, which is some translation of tidy, right? You could also say ordentlich or whatever, but sauber is kind of like what stuck with me. And I also want to bring in the anti-fragility part. And it also needs to be concise, right? Because I'm looking for a prefix for all of my Git stuff and GitHub stuff. Actually, they need to come over to the Miro board. Huge shout out to listened to a podcast where one of the lead developers was in there, and yeah, that's just. Ooh, this was the wrong one. Sorry. Let's just create a section for random stuff. Random links and resources. Let's put one S. Where the lead developer, an awesome woman, talked about how they go about things at Charm. I just loved it. And coming back to GitHub and my GitHub handles, you know, I have this. I tend to have organized things in a similar way. That's what I mean by having things in a tidy way. So always use the same prefix, basically. And I'm just looking for a prefix because if I'm developing Lego bricks, sorry for zooming in and out here. There's a zoom functionality in Miro and one from macOS. I just confused the two. Is that this is not going to be the last Lego brick, right? So I'm trying to think about a prefix, good prefix that I also have fun with, but that's also like not completely out there. And I decided on going with SAF, which is sauber and anti-fragile. You could also say like the Google AF. AF can also stand for something else. I don't want to say it because I need to be, keep the swearing in check here. But you could also say it's sauber AF, right? And that's enough for having fun, for myself to have fun with my names. So I'm probably going to rename the project to ASF and something like database or something. Maybe if you can think of a cooler name in the truest or as an homage to where did Charm go? I deleted it. So let's also bring that over. Just this. I just love the pop thing here. That's the repo, by the way, of Pop OS, of Pop SH probably, or just Pop. And let's just copy the image. Yeah, if you have like ideas of, naming stuff in a quirky way, then go ahead. But for now, I probably will settle on having fun with the prefix here. Sauber is A. Oh, it's A, yellow. Yeah, so that's probably what I'm going to be renaming this anti-fragile code thing here. At the moment, the entire thing, the package is still called anti-fragile DB. That's definitely too long and also a bit too boring. So yeah, we'll see. And maybe to get back into the coding side of things. So I managed to get everything up and running or defined in a way that I really like already. Sorry. Basically, I'm a big fan of Docker Compose and Docker files. And this might be, if you're not familiar with Docker and anything related to that, this might be really, this can go. This is something that the LLMs still haven't caught on to because of the training cutoff to it's not necessary to have the version anymore in your Docker Compose YAML file. If you're interested in that type of stuff, I talked about, tackling like lower level or entry level things like what is YAML anyway? What is Markdown? How does Docker work with Docker Compose with Docker files? What's this Docker Compose thing now? I just grokked Docker files and now you're hitting me with Docker Compose? Come on. Stuff like that, right? For people that might be starting out at some point in the spectrum of becoming a developer. So let me know if you're interested in that. It's all, I self-taught that stuff to myself. And obviously this has benefits and downsides. It's slower than maybe taking a course, but there's no course that will teach you anything or everything anyways. So you just need to commit to learning. And the cool thing is that I have my Postgres DB structured or laid out as a service here. Also the Streamlit component. So I'm even though I only want to develop my database Lego brick, I have the means of testing things out in a structured and systematic manner with using my Lego brick inside Streamlit, right? By defining Streamlit stuff. Let's just keep it at that level of detail. The same goes for Fast API. Fast API is an awesome framework or package for creating APIs. Application programming interfaces. I think that's what it stands for. So APIs are just so important nowadays, especially when AI agents enter the picture. And so, yeah, just coming back to that, this has all been done by vibe coding and or using my prompt templates. And I like what the AI basically came up with. We also have our Docker stuff nicely organized here in our Docker subdirectory. So this is the Docker file for the Streamlit app, this one for the Fast API. So I can always kind of spin those two tech stack components up in a jiffy, basically, by doing it in a structured and Dockerized manner, basically, or Docker-based manner. And also a thing that does not come out of my brain, but I really liked it, and I would have probably done it in a similar way if I had really thought it through, is that we have a scripts directory, and all those render scripts are related to Quarto. I talked about this in the other live stream. Quarto is basically a framework for having really cool and engaging writing materialize itself, right? So whatever you want to write, in technical documentation, for example, in my case, you can render it in a way that's really nice to look at in different formats. That's basically what Quarto is, based on just one single source of truth, a typical sort of a markdown file. And the other really important script is the deploy sh. And this is actually organized in a really cool way. It's really, I mean, this is shell scripting or shell script. The creation of shell script is not fun. If you look at this code, this is like nothing as easily understandable and eingängig. I don't know the word for eingängig. Let's see. Eingängig. So I'm learning some English while I'm doing live streams. Easy to understand. Okay. Could have come up with that myself. It's not as easy to understand as Python programming, and there's so much stuff that can go wrong. So I'm really happy that the AI took care of the nitty-gritty details for that, and that it's actually structured quite nicely, because you have, or I have certain sub commands that I can call. For example, setup, build, start, stop. And so this is basically my entry point of spinning things up, right? And maybe to give you an example of what's already working here compared to the last live stream, I have this env file. Env files are a great way of managing all your environment variables that your entire program, Lego brick, module, whatever you want to call it, needs. For example, how to access the database, right? Database is always, this is by no means any security or data privacy related thing here. Those are just the base settings, so I'm not spilling the beans here. But if you have an app where you actually have your, for example, OpenAI API key, you would usually put that in an env file. You would never want to show anyone your API key, especially not on live streams. So I need to be really careful about what I'm showing, but this is definitely not anything that's crucial. And also one thing that plays into doing things in a tidy / sauber way, and also with an anti-fragile mindset, is to distinguish between different environments where you want to have your code run, or where your code is running. There's definitely always the development layer that's here. This is happening in dev mode, right? I'm in my basement, I'm on my machine, I'm trying to get something done. Then there's the other side of the spectrum, having whatever you came up with in your little basement, hacking away, have that run at a company in the infrastructure, the legacy infrastructure that the company needs, right? So this is what I call production readiness, and this environment is usually called production, right? So you should always, I think, have at least two different environments in your head and in your code. That's development and production. And a lot of people have one intermediate layer, which is sometimes called testing, sometimes called staging. It's basically to, before you ship it to production, have an environment where you can run systematic tests. And systematic can mean more manual stuff, or actually really systematic through so-called CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration and continuous development. And I always get this, I again get this YouTube warning, not enough video. What's going on? Oh, Backblaze. Well, thanks Backblaze for coming into, this is my my gosh, what it's called, my backup. That's what I was looking for. My backup thing. The thing is, I cannot kick in trip mode right now, because then I think the live stream would end, unfortunately. So I need to find Backblaze and just, if I can find it. Let's see. Let's actually sort this. It's probably called differently, right? It's probably this though. So if I'm gone now, because I'm shooting macOS in the foot here by trying to activity monitor, it's not telling me either what it is. This is going to be interesting. Let's force quit it. Of course it was not. Well, we cannot say that yet. I have to maybe restart. It's also back. But wasn't there was a, oh, here, I could have just found the icon. I'm stupid. Skill issue. So let's see. Interesting that, like, interesting in a bad way, that trip mode is not catching up immediately on what's actually running or not running. Okay, now I think we should be good again. Just reading through your comment, Jelle, you need to be a bit more precise what you mean by that. If it's already possible, you just mean just learning programming just with AI and no other resources like books or, I don't know, courses or anything like that. If you mean it in that way, I would never think about the topic of learning in that in a black or white manner of only doing it that way or another way. Well, at least for me, maybe going back for Miro to Miro, it most likely will be a mix of AI-based learning. This is the cool thing about AI-based learning, that you can do stuff and learn about it at the same time. It's AI-based doing, right? And so at any point, and I can show that in the live stream today. At any point, you can say, "Hey, I want to know more about what you just did. I think it's really cool. I don't understand it yet. Just explain it to me, and persist that if you want to. You can persist that explanation into a file, right? And then also structured in or laid out in a nice way, not just plain text. That's where Markdown or Quarto comes in. To have you go back to that as you basically creating your own learning wiki with the help of AI. So that's definitely one part of the game, but I don't think it's enough, right? So at least for me, there's stuff like info intake. And info intake basically, let's maybe have that on a higher level here. So let AI help you. There's the info intake, and this is stuff for me. This is podcasts. This is random YouTube videos. Not random, but whenever I have the time, right? That's what I mean. This is reading through blog posts. I don't do that as much as I used to. And so on, right? I don't think for me, like that's why I'm putting it further down. I'm not reading, let's maybe make them white. I'm not reading as many books as I used to like 10 years ago or even 3 years ago, let alone do courses. I mean, obviously they help. They definitely help, but they also cost a lot of time. Whereas here you can basically, I mean, you always at most are putting in maybe 1 or 3 hours, depending on how long a podcast episode is. A typical non-podcast episode YouTube video is what, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. And however long you need to read through a blog post, right? So it's much more time efficient, and you can mix and match how you want to go about it. And the last thing I want to really stress this is the just do part. You need to just try out stuff. Like whenever you have an idea, get down there, just try it. And not try it, do it. Because if you know Yoda, Master Yoda, there is no try. Do or do not, there is no try. So that's how I would describe it. And obviously, we are moving into a time where you have your AI, your hyper-personalized AI tutor, right? Hyper-personalized. A really cool, awesome so that seems weird of the split. Never mind. A really cool company that is moving into that direction already. A huge shout out is the Khan Academy. I always forget how to. Yeah, that's how you write it. Awesome guy. Watch his TED Talk. It's just fantastic. I really have so much respect for him personally and his company. Let's actually find the TED Talk as well. He has his own speaker page. This one is the one. No, it's not the one. This one is the one. How AI could save, not destroy education. This is fantastic. You definitely should check it out. Let's actually continue with our weird whiteboard here. Oh, sorry. And what they in particular came out with, and he talks about this, I think it's Sal Khan. Yeah, that's his name. They came out with Khan Migo. And let's find that really quick. I think by now it's also available in the European Union. It wasn't for when I tried to get access to it. It's tailored to, I think it was tailored to homework helper. You can see that, right? To kids in school. But it definitely is, there's no limit. I mean, there's so much to learn. And obviously we are living in a learning age where also adults always need to, well, they maybe don't need to, but you're well advised to always keep learning. And it's just awesome. It's really your tutor, and it will not give you the answers. It will make you work, but it will help you it's just a chat, your hyper-personalized chat GPT for specific topics where you can be sure that it's not hallucinating. Well, make that a 99% or 98% sure, right? They're working, obviously, Khan Academy is working hard on taking that problem out of the picture. I don't know how they do it exactly, but having guardrails and checks and balances on the smart model inside that prevents hallucination from taking place. We just read through the comments here. Yeah, I mean, coding is hard, right? It's something you're never done with learning that, and but yeah, it definitely can help you get more order in your thinking and in your doing by how you write code, for example, right? You can also have it critique your code as well. And one thing that actually worked quite well for me is in the prompt templates, I have this explicit thing, choose the most lightweight. I'm switching over to the MCP server test. Let's just look for that. Interesting. Wait. MCP server, I'm sure. How do I put that straightforward? I think I didn't say straight. Demonstration effect. Here. It's in my game plans. It's also in the fix general, for example, here. Always use the most straightforward implementation option, right? So you can tell the AI, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Don't try to come up with the most complex thing or solution of what I try to do. Just go the opposite direction. Do it in the simplest way possible. That's usually a good starting point. Not to start out with the most complex one. All right. Hope that answered that question. So with all this was fun. I needed to get back into it. So this was kind of like a prelude, a quite long prelude to actually get into coding. But yeah, I think I cut out with a side quest talking about the .env file and the environments, or the different environments that you need. And if we delete this file again, because it does not contain any important information at the moment, there's a env example, and this env example is taking as the initial content of your env file. And the cool thing is you can create this now by running this script that I just talked about in this deploy.sh. So I can now run scripts and deploy, and I think it's the setup command. And when I run this, you will see that this .env file will be created automatically, right? Whenever I program, especially when it comes to doing stuff like setting up things or pushing things to into another realm, for example, when deploying it, I want to be really systematic about this. And the way you do that typically in programming land is to think about what the workflow would be or is, and then codify this workflow in a script. And unfortunately, this is still terminal bash stuff, like shell stuff. You need to go really down to this is like over-exaggerated, obviously, but almost to a machine code level, right? It's really cryptic. And this comes from, I don't know when this was invented, 70s, 80s, or something like that. Go look it up. Go do your homework that I didn't do for when bash scripting actually came about. Probably the 60s. 60s or 70s, I would guess. But the cool thing is AI can help you write that, and then you can leverage this by just, for example, it's also set up that you can call -h, which is the way to call for help, and you can see what you can do with this script, right? It will tell you, hey, those are the commands that are defined: setup, build, start, stop, restart. So we can run all of our services that are defined in like 20 minutes back, I talked about Docker and Docker Compose. This is what this is referring to, right? We can try that. It's probably not working yet, but just to make the point of, let's try the build command. This definitely should yeah, it's doing the thing, right? It's reaching out to Docker Hub, to be more precise, because you need lots of different Lego bricks to build everything together, bundle everything together, and we are governing. There's still an issue here with in some step of the running it, right? So this is probably, I'm having problems with the no cache dir stuff. This is actually what I'm focusing on in a second or in a minute. But the cool thing about Docker is this entire thing, you can think of this file here, the Docker compose YAML, as a recipe basically for how you want your Lego bricks that make up your tool, your app, whatever, how you want that to go about or to happen. And everything then is again governed by this deploy sh script. And this is really cool. So I really like this. We got this far, and now I actually wanted to have the start our little Streamlit example app, which is in our subdirectory examples here. You can see we have stuff for our API. This is fast API app, if you will, or our API. And then unfortunately we have 3 different files for Streamlit apps, I think. Yeah, this is definitely Streamlit app. This is a simple one. And there's Streamlit _app, which is definitely too much or too many. We should probably only have 2. And be that as it may, I was trying to, and am in the middle of debugging what's going on here, because what I want to do is to have a test Streamlit app to see if everything that I actually want to do regarding database interaction works as I want it to work. And this is where I basically got stuck, right? And for that, I basically am, let's see, I'm in the middle of, or I started calling my own root cause analysis and fix tool in my MCP server. And we just need to find, or I want to continue with this at some point where I think it makes sense for me. So I probably have to think a bit about that, and then kind of basically take you on the journey of explaining what's going on. So we definitely had some issues with wrong imports. Oh yeah, I think this is basically a good idea, and it also ties into the learning aspect that Jelle just touched upon. I basically, one of the reasons why things are failing right now is that the app tried to see where I can find the, this part here is really cool. The fact that it's that specific, I think, well, not I think, it's definitely tied to the way I composed my prompt template, that I asked the model to give me confirmation types of what the root cause of a certain issue is and how it would go about fixing it. And obviously the model could have come up with a similar thing itself, but this way of laying it out to me as the user, the carbon meatbag, is really, it's helping me, right? Because circular imports is a thing that can quite easily happen, or rather easily happen, when you try to, build, put together different Lego bricks in your Python app, and sometimes you go around in a circle. So you import this from that and this from that, and it never stops. It's an infinite loop, if you will. And then obviously Python says, I cannot break out of this code. You need to fix this. We need to change stuff, right? And this thing, basically, if you read a little through that, it's this thing that caught my attention. The app is trying to import from the package itself. Sorry, got a hair here. From the package itself, and it's better to actually import stuff from their actual submodule. This does not make sense if you're completely new to coding, but in Python you can basically say, you can tell what your package should be exposing as functionality. Basically, think of it as a dashboard in a car. The dashboard in a car has let's say 5 buttons, and you can that's what the user can push, right? Even though there might be like hidden buttons below the dashboard or behind the dashboard, you say, I only give you those 5. And I can make it 6, I can make it 7, I can make it 3. And this in Python land is governed, or you set this as with this little weird init py file. It took me a while when I started out learning Python to understand what this actually does. And it's basically right below our package directory, which is should always be in the source directory if you're following a source-based package layout or project layout, which I think is good. And then basically you can see those are the buttons that we're exposing, right? So whenever you want to use this package, let me do a little throwaway file here, a little temp file. Yeah, it's just called temp. Whenever you want to import the package that I'm just creating, you could do it that way. Import or from my package, import whatever component, right? And this is one of the components that needs to be listed in this init file that I just showed you. Otherwise, this wouldn't work. And you can do it that way. You can basically expose the entirety of your buttons that your package has just in a flat manner in this file, which is probably not a good idea. And this is the first time that I actually reasoned about this in a bit more detail. It's probably better if you know that create adapter is, for example, in a drawer, in a subdirectory. And I think we actually have that. Yeah, we have the adapters here. Let's actually find an example that actually makes sense for. So we go with SQLite, maybe. Let's just find something that actually exists. Yeah, you see the AI took care of writing that path out for me. So the SQLite adapter class is living in a quite nested structure. So this is our package, which probably we called SAF database or something like that we talked about in the beginning. Then there's a subdirectory, there's a hidden layer, adapters. Then there's yet another layer in there for just SQLite stuff as opposed to Postgres DB stuff, for example. And then there's even yet another subdirectory where the actual adapters are defined, and the adapter that we want to use is this one. Right? So those are the different ways you could handle your imports. And I think even though this is much more verbose and much more involved, obviously, I think this is much better to handle, to be really explicit about where things live and to reduce the risk of creating circular imports. And maybe Yellow, coming back to your question, this is a thing I wanted to persist. I chose the quick and easy way, basically, quick and dirty way, in a way. I have this learning subfolder, and it is filled with Quarto stuff, right? And I just created an inbox document and just wrote down what I wanted to persist to kind of structure this later on. So basically, I don't know, I like this XML notation because it helps my thinking, and it's also suited quite well for telling the code agents or the LLMs of, hey, this is a logically coherent block, right? So treat this as one thing, then there comes another thing. So basically, this is what the agent wrote here on the right-hand side, which I put into this logical block. And then this is CMD stands for common meatbag. A couple of people were like offended by this, but it's meant with tongue in cheek, right? I'm just a carbon meatbag. I'm fine with calling myself carbon meatbag. So I just wrote down, hey, make this the standard way of structuring and importing my code, right? Just for a note to myself, basically. Always from the submodules, not from main. And basically just, we can actually copy what I just put down here as an example. So I remember, because this actually exists in that way. All right. So that's basically where I decided to live stream, and 1.5 hours later, I actually continue with that, but it's fine. I might switch to be more quiet now, depending on how well I'm able to reason about the thing I need to do or want to do, and be able to talk at the same time. So you might just want to listen to some music and just follow along. I try to keep an eye though on the chat. So you can always see in cursor which file you already touched, if it has an accepted or rejected the proposals. If it's a circle, a green circle, then it still has stuff for you to look at. If it's a check mark, then this file is done basically, right? Or it has already been handled. And here you can basically see the examples of how we import stuff from our package is different. It has different drawers, different components, different layers. This is the Streamlit layer, and there's some caching that we need to deal with, certain components, session management, all that stuff that actually I don't want to deal with, but that you need to if you want to use stuff with Streamlit. At least it seems to me that way. If I might be completely wrong in this, but yeah, let's just see how far we get with just this one Lego brick of database interaction. Obviously, there's still lots of linter errors here. If it's squiggly lines, if it has squiggly underscores, this means there's still stuff that's going wrong. But we're just focusing on, for now, on the create DB adapter, because this is where the original error that we're dealing with came about. And you see how we changed that, right? Before it was from Antifragile DB import the create DB adapter function. Functions are usually written in so-called snake case, so all lowercase with underscores as separators. And we imported that directly from our main or init file that I highlighted in the example before. And now we're importing it from the factory submodule, which definitely, and that's the only change in this file. So you can either jump to review next file here or go down to, interesting, why it's still, this might be a cursor UI thing. There should be actually a check mark now. And you can jump to the next file by scrolling down in your conversation and finding the next file, for example. I think we're done here. Yeah, this is definitely an issue, and a UI issue here within cursor. And this is the next file, the factory file that we need to look at. It has just been created. I don't like that, because whenever there's too many code changes at once, and this is a big one of creating a new file and creating this create DB adapter, which I think was already there. Let's see. Let's look for where this is defined. It might have moved it from some other. So we either didn't have it, which would then be a flaw in realizing and coming up with our components. It happened yesterday, so I don't recall. Or we moved it from one location to another location. I cannot retrace this now. It seems like it's not defined in any other part of our code base, which is insofern. What's insofern? Need to look that up. Insofar, I think. Yeah, that seems like, to a German speaking English, this seems like a literal translation that you think that cannot be right. Insofar as, but apparently it is. So this is fine insofar as the new creation then is fine. So I can accept this. I feel good about accepting the entire file. You can see that we can view, jump to the next file also in that regard. Oh, maybe, yeah, okay. Now it wasn't listed anymore because it's already marked as a deletion. The create DB adapter function has been defined before in our init file. directly, right? This is our package layer. And right below is the init layer. That's basically our dashboard that I talked about with like as many buttons as you want to expose directly. And we defined the create database adaptive function in here, which definitely does not make sense to me at all, right? So it's much better to move that to another part. We also have other stuff in here. Yeah, we need to, oh no, sorry. So we're importing it now, right? Because now we'll live in the factory module or below the factory module. And there's other stuff though. Get runtime info. This should probably also go. Let's just put that in temp so I don't forget about this. Talking or asking the model if we should also move this, because this is a so-called, to me, it's a so-called code smell. It shouldn't be in here, but let's not get caught up with trying to fix two things at the same time. And just reading through the things now. So we tackled init, we tackled the Streamlit app file that or script that actually defines the Streamlit app. And now we can run this again. Yeah, we should be able to. Why isn't it? I might have timed out. Please run the example Streamlit app from the project root or root dir with Streamlit command. There's different ways of starting your Streamlit app. You can call Python -m. I like Streamlit run more, like this one. I don't know why. It's just that way. And now we are trying to run our Streamlit app, and obviously, or as expected, there are more errors. That's also a mindset thing. If you're set out to program, you're well advised in always expecting that things fail and then celebrate when they succeed. Because it's much more better for your frustration tolerance, energy level or frustration. Yeah, fending off frustration by going about it that way, because otherwise you'd just be miserable. Sorry, but that's the truth. So the cool thing is that the agent should be able to reason about this error itself because it was run inside the right-hand side panel. So I don't need to copy any error messages around. I would just need to cancel and hope for it should. Yeah, we're still seeing the same issue. So we still have the circular import problem. Oh, I would actually go intervene here. Let's call the need to be fast enough, and I'm not. Root cause analysis and fix tool, please. So if you don't, I can always reject all. So nothing actually happened because I didn't accept anything yet, but I kind of intervened to say, hey, don't just try to fix it. Fix it the way I want you to go about fixing stuff, right? Which is calling my MCP server tool and our prompt template, which has, for me, just the huge benefits of that stuff happening, right? It lays out, it actually takes a step back, looks at the code base, tries to reason about, hey, what's actually the root cause here without jumping the gun? How should we go about fixing it with the knowledge of the entire code base, or like taking a step back on a meta level? And that's just working for me quite well. It's not perfect yet. Nothing ever is, I think, in Gen AI coding, but it's helpful. And there's this cool quote. Sorry, this has to go side quest alarm. This has to go on Miro. I keep forgetting who said it. I'm so bad with this. All models are wrong. All models are wrong, but some are useful. Oh yeah, Box, my former professor would beat me to it because Box is a famous figure in the forecasting realm, statistical forecasting. Let's actually see if we can have a nice image representation of that. Our models are wrong, but some are useful. That's how I think about Gen AI coding as well. That guy. So there's no silver bullet. There's nothing perfect, and it doesn't need to be. If it's useful, that's... Hey there, new viewer for Fortune YouTube. Thanks for dropping in. Yes, Jelle, to your question, this is a very, very good question. If I may, I will just copy that to the Miro board as well, because that's exactly the end goal for anti-fragility. So that what I want to eventually manage, and I think it's doable because now we have Gen AI brain power basically, or intelligence. Let the Lego bricks fix themselves whenever something goes wrong. And as at least I interpret your question in exactly that regard. And you need to add a back channel into every Lego brick to say, hey, if something goes wrong, then I don't need to tell you to look at the root cause. And no, we don't need an agent in Cursor or any other like meta framework or infrastructure. You are a nanobot and you are able to reason about what's going wrong yourself by calling an AI model or an LLM, obviously, because otherwise it's not smart. But that's exactly why I keep referring to this to Antifragile. It should be self-healing, self-fixing, basically. I just remembered one other thing, one really cool YouTube video that kind of goes into the same direction of self-healing agents by means of memory. I watched that before the live stream, so it should be in my history. Here. I don't know how. Oh, interesting. He changed his name. I think it was called Version or Version. I don't know. Let's just go there. It's an awesome video because let's actually go to the beginning though. He talks about a framework for adding memory to your agents. And that basically at some point he talks about the exact same thing that I want to realize, just with other means, of the agent remembering what it did in the past to fix certain things or to not run into an issue. And just by the pure means of remembering, not do an error or a mistake twice. And that's exactly what I also want to realize. And as I don't know if the saying exists in English, but many paths lead to Rome. That's but that's the dream, right? That's the anti-fragile dream of creating software that's able to do exactly that. And now, going back to my prompt template, if you read through, I will need to I want to rephrase that those things like confirmation type 7, confirmation type 1 become a bit more self-explanatory. For example, confirmation type 7 is basically just the model repeating or responding, yeah, I know what you want me to do, right? I need to protocol and I will thoroughly analyze, blah, blah, blah. Confirmation type 1 could be called, so give me your reasoning about the root cause. So you did the root cause analysis, what do you come back with? And it's what it comes back with. And the confirmation type 2 is what it will do and or the fix. Not sure. I think that this depends on basically the route it's taking. Yeah, it's definitely telling me exactly how it wants to go about to pinpoint or narrow down the project, the error even more. That's still basically the root cause analysis. And this is basically what I just said, that the digest or the synthesis of what's actually going wrong and how to go about fixing it, right? And let's maybe read through that real quick. So yeah, we're doing things in a really weird way. So we're importing stuff to then kind of like re-export it. This doesn't sound right. Yeah, that's the thing here. The init is not done yet, while when it enters a circular loop, basically. And this is solid reasoning. I mean, that's what a human developer would also do. To be fair, sometimes the human would probably still be faster, but I think not at scale. Especially when you want to do not just one, if you're not just coding in one project, but you're basically having like 5 to 10 code projects at once. That's my reality, right? In client projects, stuff I want to do for myself, try to decompose a bigger code base into smaller, more generalizable parts and so on. So I just cannot handle all the context. Maybe I'm just bad at this, but it's just how it is. So I really celebrate this, basically. And I'm quite happy that I got it to get going on my own with the way I prompt, and I kind of how I put together my prompt templates is already adding benefit or bringing benefit to my daily work, and hopefully to those of others as well out there. Actually, we moved this already, so this cannot be the main issue. Okay, so this sounds like we actually did what we needed to do, and yet we have an issue. We have the issue. What I don't like about it, it's taking the easy way out, right? It's saying just let's do the let's even create yet a fourth file in the examples directory. I need to zoom out here. That's definitely not something I like here. We already had app simple. It did not take note of that, apparently. And I don't like this. So I would go about, no, we need to fix the root cause of what's going wrong. I'm fine with you taking a simplified version of the Streamlit app as a stepping stone in better understanding what's going on / wrong. But we already have too many Streamlit app scripts in the example directory. So please clean up and then rerun the root cause analysis and fix procedure by calling the MCP server tool. Let's see how this goes. So it's deleting the file that it just created. I didn't accept it yet, so I hope this works actually. Oh yeah, it asks me if it's okay to delete it. Yeah, I need to confirm that. It's fine. And it does call the tool again, which is cool. I'm always experimenting a bit with how to advise the model to call the tool. I do not want to obviously explicitly name the tool. It should semantically understand which tool I want it to call, and it got it right. It calls the MCP tool apply prompt fix. And so we're rerunning our loop here. I could also have switched to the 3.7 Sonnet thinking module. I probably will do that in the next iteration if we can't fix it. All right, let's see. I have identified the root cause. So circular import. Package imports from Streamlit and then from factory session enters the picture. I think we didn't have that before. It imports create DB data directly. Or it's that, I think that's causing the issue because we still have one other file that still tries to import the create DB adapter function directly from the dashboard, if you will, which we moved this into the factory, into this module, basically. I propose the following fix. Yeah, okay, cool. That's much better. Modify Streamlit session file to import create DB adapter from factory. And my brain now jumps to maybe let's do that after trying to, or after fixing that, to tell the model, hey, look for similar occurrences of possibly the same problem here, right? Let me just try to clean up a little bit here. I always forget to close stuff I don't need. Temp, that's the file I wanted. Remember to advise the model, to ask the model, the agent, to check for similar circular import issues that are, come on, I don't want you to, are related to create DB adapter moving to factory module. Exactly. So you see how autocomplete sometimes it's usually good, sometimes it's not anticipating what you want to write, but it's fine. Okay, so I accept this and then we rerun the app. Definitely different error, which is good. I mean, you might think, oh my God, this is taking like forever, but that's just the reality. Obviously, you could always, before running Streamlit, you can double and triple check if everything goes right. I'm like fail fast and then fix it type of guy. Because it's mostly related to that I don't have time to spend like 3 hours on just one component, but only like 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there. Okay, this is like completely different thing. So we managed to fix this problem already. That's actually, let's stop and git commit with a message describing the fix. And then I probably would create or start a new conversation because it's a new, completely unrelated issue to the one before with the circular import. So it merits, yeah, I don't like, actually it's on the one hand, it's good that the model wants to do the git commit stuff itself, but sometimes I don't know, I feel like copy and pasting and doing some git stuff myself is actually quite beneficial, but sure, let's go ahead. But it didn't. Interesting. Give me just the git commit message, please. Oh, come on. In a bit more structure, please. It's interesting how you can get not mad, but you have emotions along the lines of, come on, please think a little bit, because I wanted it to I want this. Obviously, you see that this is quite, you know, uninspired. This is at least breaking it down into a couple of like structuring a bit more. Okay, so we are starting a new conversation with Command N. Ooh, I wasn't in the right frame here, in the right-hand side frame. We need to, I do actually like to reference the code base. Oh yeah, I just realized yesterday I updated cursor and the entire UI changed, which is good and bad. I just want to talk about it real quickly. You can check out which version of cursor you're actually using when you go to cursor and about, and you see I'm on the 0.46.8 version, which is fairly new. And they seem to have different update mechanisms because there is a built-in update, and I did that, but I still didn't get to the most recent version of cursor. If you search for cursor changelog, you will get to this page here. And for some reason, doing it internally, I was still stuck on the previous minor version. That's a semantic versioning. First digit is the major digit, the digit for the minor, denoting the minor version of whatever you're doing, and this is the patch version, right? And what I had to do once I realized, hey, I'm still not on the most recent version actually, is to actually download it once more and to actually install it, and over-install it or install it on top of the existing installation, and then you get the most recent version, and some stuff actually changed, right? Also how things are looking in the cursor settings. If you remember, there was in the last live stream, I still had the MCP servers didn't have an own basically an own tab in the settings, but they were within the features. And as you see, they're gone now. So the indexing is still there, but MCP servers have their own thing, which for me this is a great sign because it shows how much Cursor also believes in this standard that came out, or that Anthropic put out with their MCP server protocol, if you will, or framework. Okay, so that's just another side quest basically, but I wanted to talk about this because if you watched yesterday's live stream, you might be lost because things are looking differently also on the right hand side here. We only have the chat. There's no composer anymore, and you can basically, I think this is much cleaner and I like the change. It's you basically just need to think about, hey, do I want the agent to do stuff, or do I have a question? And then you ask it, and the code, the model does not go about fixing stuff right away, or at least you have much more control over what it's doing. I don't even know what edit actually is. Interesting. I have to look this up. Never realized this or took notice of this. Okay, but we definitely want to go back to the agent mode, and I would just start things off with voice typing because I'm lazy. So please look at our code base. We are defining a module for database interaction, and I want to test this out with our example Streamlit app. Please run the app with Streamlit run command. With the Streamlit run command. I'm not refactoring this to see if the model is able to pick it up. Look at our code base. We're defining a model for database interaction. I want to test it out. Yeah, let's start off without any MCP server stuff to just get the ball rolling. Basically, it should run the app and then see that we are running into this issue that we had before. As you can see, it's checking the code base. I think this is explicitly why I had this, because I put this code base stuff up here. How do you do that? That's a glitch, I think, because you cannot do it in the agent mode. You can only do it in the ask mode. Let me try this again. Code base here. If you type add code, you see that in the chat mode, there's the option to say, hey, reference the entire code base, which is probably not needed, but better safe than sorry. And so I did that in the chat before, and it carries over to when you switch to agent mode. I think at least it's still listed up here. And yeah, now it says it has a good understanding of the code base. Great. Then let's run it. Oh, interesting. This is another issue. We got actually further, which is interesting. I'm not sure we were running the simple app. That's why we have different errors. But okay, I'm fine with starting off with a more simpler version of a Streamlit app and fixing that first. But what I would do now is to actually not cancel this, but just type over what the agent is, where the agent currently is. Apply the root cause analysis and fix procedure by calling the MCP server function or tool. And off we go. I thought about actually making those two steps, the root cause analysis, have one prompt template for this, and then obviously carrying things over to by calling another tool that would do based on the root cause analysis, do the fixing now, and do the fixing with unit testing and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to decide at times how fine granular you want to be, and just have to watch out for the postman, basically, because I'm waiting for something. Okay, let's see. Follow the diagnostic, understand the issue, database and action model, reported symptoms interrupted. Yeah, but that's just basic stuff. Diagnose the issue, examine. Okay, it just wants to rerun the thing with some more logging output. Fine. And this is something that you might, stumble across or over, that it's not going to continue unless you cancel it. It will then read the traceback or the error message. It should, at least. Yeah, so it does use this information here automatically. So it's definitely related to our class here. The issue now, or the question now, is, do we actually need this is connected method that's missing still from our, sorry, let me zoom out a little bit. It thinks yes, right? So what it's actually doing is to just return, it's just a checking, basically a check and monitoring method or a health check method. I think that's the best way of putting it. If the engine is already set, which happens through other methods, then it will return the engine value, basically. Otherwise, it would return a none. I think I'm fine with that. I don't want to reason about if we could leverage other existing stuff to get to the same goal, but why not? Having checks and balances and health check monitoring stuff is probably never a good idea. Never a bad idea. Yeah, bye, Yellow. Great to have you. All right, so the fix is connected. We did that already, so to add this and then let's rerun it. And this looks much better, which is cool. We now have another issue with the get session. It's probably a similar, well, not a similar thing. It's not just a health thing. It's to access some internal state management thing or connection management thing or session management thing, to be more precise. So this one does not show up in the error log. So this one I actually need to make the model aware through that. Actually, a cool thing that works that I use more and more is to actually take a screenshot and also feed this into the model, because obviously the model does not have any clue of what, you know, things are looking like. And sometimes I think it's good that it does see how things materialize. So I say the app is running much better than before, but we still have a slight issue with another method that's missing. I was just puzzled because when I voice type, the music doesn't stop anymore. It did so in the last live stream. So I just wondered what audio settings I actually am using at the moment. Maybe for others that might think about streaming, this is my setup, right? I have the input and the output to, maybe that's the thing, to using eCam as an intermediary. I think yesterday I set the input directly to my Rodecaster, and I think then the music cuts out or the mic takes over. I think eCam handles this much smoother. So that's a learning. All right. I didn't ask it to run through the root cause analysis and fix procedure, which might be bad, but let's read through what I just forgot basically. Streamlit app is trying to use adapter, but the SQLite doesn't have a get session method. It has a session provider property that's provide session, but no direct get session method. What's the session provider doing? And what would the not sure if I like this, because it's just a nested sugar coding thing or syntactic sugar thing. If I understand it correctly, we already have session provider, which you know, gives us an instance of this class as a it's an instance of this class, whatever the materialized value is. And this class has a get session, has the get session thing. Right? So no, I don't think that's a good idea, because the get session stuff should be encapsulated and live only inside the sync session provider, and there's probably then an async session provider. And we should leverage this. What we would do now, if we followed the recommendation, is to have tighter coupling, because we would, you know, pull something that the adapter shouldn't be aware about. Maybe this is putting it too harshly, and maybe I'm too strict here, but the SQLite adapter should not be concerned with that's maybe I'm wrong here. This is something I want to learn even more, like where the boundaries are and how much coupling is okay, and where when it becomes too tightly coupled. So I would just I think rephrase that, or ask the model that. So here's my understanding. We have a get session method already, but it's defined within the session provider. Within this one, And there's probably then async, an async session provider. Get session, yep, exactly. We now want to create another version of get session that calls that principally, I don't know, does nothing more than call the get session method of the underlying instance class. In the light of tight versus loose coupling and the solid principles, I wonder if this is the best choice. Please elaborate on your stance on this. I actually switched to ask now because I actually want this to be like a short interlude conversation, I think, with the model. And probably something that I would also like to persist in my learnings compendium, if you will. Yeah, it's a convenience method, right? You raise an excellent point. Oh, thank you. Design concerns, exactly. So violation of single responsibility principle, increased coupling, yep. Abstraction leakage, yep. Inconsistent API design. The adapter already has a transaction method that provides a session in a transaction context. Adding a separate get session method creates two ways of getting a session, which can be confusing. Oh, that's a good point. I missed that actually. Better design and client-side adaptation. Instead of modifying the adapter classes, we can modify the client code. Oh yeah, I actually do like that, I think. It's exactly, yeah, instead of the client just, well, then we have a bit more tight coupling on the client side, but okay, let's just read through option 2, composition with explicit. Oh, I like this a lot, just because it has composition. Because I thought about this dependency injection, I immediately went to dependency injection. And this is like tightly or closely linked, shouldn't say tightly, to composition in a way, right? Or you can tackle it with composition design patterns. That's exactly what I want. I'm a bit not frustrated, but that's exactly what I want. And I feel like the model is bringing it up like pretty late in the game. I would have liked to cover and touch upon this in the design phase, but to be fair, I didn't take that deep of a ownership in thinking through the things. So this would mean, so database operations. Okay, we probably don't have that yet. I like this, I think, much more nonetheless, because it just defines a clear interface for get session and execute query, like the most important things probably. And then the database, SQLite database operation would inherit from that. And we would inject in the initialization phase. And the facade pattern. I'm not familiar with that yet. So I think we would spare ourselves one layer if we go with the facade one of having database operations and then SQLite and Postgres and whatever, and just trying to like assuming that all possible database database interaction classes use the same interface, then we can all that so that they have a get session and execute transaction or a transaction method. I like this as well. Seems a bit more straightforward. Given the immediate need to make streamed app work, our solution is pragmatic. Or for long-term maintainability, I would recommend documented design decision. The fundamental question, exactly. And it's not giving me the answer, I think. A thin wrapper around its components, loose coupling, or a comprehensive interface that hides its components encapsulation. I need to understand this a bit more. I need to understand this in a bit more detail. What I want is to use composition over inheritance. I like loose coupling, and I want to design code that's as anti-fragile as possible, and composability plays a big role in that. Please elaborate from this perspective in a bit more detail. I could bring in reasoning. I just thought about it. It might yield even better results, but let's work with what we have. I think 3.5 Sonnet is also up to the task. That's exactly the thing. I mean, Yella's not here anymore, but this is exactly what I want to get at the end. Not in this live stream, but eventually. Anti-fragile systems improve under stress and change. Yeah, independently replaced or upgraded, exactly. So taking out one Lego brick and substituting it by another one, basically, right? Fail gracefully and locally without cascading, yes. Adapt to changing requirements, yep. And can be recombined. That's a huge... that's why I'm in favor of composability or composition over inheritance. Of recombining stuff is crucial for everything I do, basically, or want to do. Composition excels at these goals because it creates systems of independent parts connected through well-defined interfaces rather than tightly integrated hierarchies. Exactly. I don't want tightly integrated hierarchies. Two design approaches in detail. Thin wrapper, loose coupling. I feel like I already tend towards one thing, but let's read through it. In this approach, the adapt is primarily a container for its components with minimal additional functionality. I like that. Independent evolution. Yeah, components can evolve independently as long as they maintain their interface. Exactly. There needs to be some form of contract, right? As much as I try to think and reason about this in how are things in the physical world, like a plug and, you know, the electrical plug in its socket. Or there's so many, to cut it short, there's so many interfaces that have been fixed by convention, or, like, to make it really explicit, USB-C, for example. And obviously you cannot do without this, or you might be able to do without this once you have true anti-fragile code that just understand, oh, the interface changed, so now I need to grow a new branch or arm or leg or whatever, a new plug. And then I think this is doable for just one component, but to kind of cascade the changed interface to all other components in the nanobot universe, this might become tricky, but yeah, let's not get caught up on this side quest again. Right. Evolve independently. Great. As long as they maintain their interface, this is where I cut out basically with the possible side quest that I managed to avoid last second. Explicit dependencies. Client code explicitly shows which components depend on. I think this is rather good. And we had this entire thing with the circular import. Doing it more explicitly just reduces it's fail fast and then know why you fail much faster than and troubleshoot much faster than doing it in a different way. Selective usage. Client can use only the components they need. Yep. Big fan of that. Testability. Yeah. Isolated testing. Good. Flexibility swapped out. Also good. Example. So how would this look like? The adapter calls the session provider, and we know that it has this interface basically. And that's it. Comprehensive interface encapsulation. In this approach, the adapter provides a complete interface that hides its internal components. Okay, let me reason about this by looking at... Okay, here we are not relying on the session provider having the actual things, but we kind of pull things one layer up right within the SQLite adapter, for example, or any adapter for our database. Those two methods that would actually belong or are existent already in the session provider. And I think this is just syntactical sugaring, right? This is just convenience for the client side. And I don't know if the benefits of that simplicity exactly. Obviously, it's more simple. You don't need to reason about. They just have a single interface to learn. That's a perfect way to put it. Implementation details are hidden. Shit, this is also good, right? So I need to take a decision quite soon. Consistency, the adapter controls how its components are used. Yeah, evolution, internal components can be restructured without affecting clients. Yeah, but the same is true as long as the interface is supported, you're still free to change the inner settings, right? Yeah, it's just shorter here. Okay. The problem with mixing approaches mixes these approaches. Okay, we're currently mixing. Where are we mixing? Duplicate session provider gets session. Why are we duplicating it? We're just implementing this interface encapsulation basically. Should clients use adapter get session? Yeah, exactly. I see that point. In both available, which is preferred? Exactly. The implementation of one changes, should the other change too? Exactly. It's definitely bad that we mix it. I don't want to mix anything. Just need to decide. Composition-focused anti-fragile design. For truly anti-fragile composition-based design, I recommend clear component boundaries with interfaces. Define explicit interfaces for each component. I want that. So we got the connection manager. It has the get engine. We have the session provider. We had that before, right? Yeah, we already are in SQLite and sync and async land of session provider. But yeah. Dependency injection, make dependencies explicit and injectable. So we in the SQLite adapter, we provide for a connection manager or a session provider. That's the one we're concerned with. And it just accepts everything that basically inherits from a session provider, which is this abstract class / protocol. It's not, I think interfaces and protocol, for me, it's still the same, which I think is not good. I always switch to, okay, it's an abstract class. It defines interfaces. But yeah, I don't know when to call it an interface, when to call it a protocol. And if this thing, usually like abstract classes inherit from ABC. Maybe protocol would inherit from ABC. I don't know. ABC being the abstract class thingy in Python land. But I like that. That makes total sense. Consistent action access patterns. Choose one pattern, stick with it. Yeah, I definitely lean towards option A. Composable higher level functions instead of adding methods to the adapter. Wait, the adapter. The adapter would be SQLite adapter. Yeah, actually, yeah, exactly. Not actually, exactly. I don't want to add methods to that. This would counteract the composition, right? Instead of adding methods to the adapter, consider standalone functions that compose components, which would then be basically like factories in a sense, or like composition helpers. So how would this look like? With transaction, here's a function that would kind of hide some inner ways of it. It would strive for the ease of use, as I understand it. That's why we're defining this, to make it easier for the client to only call the with transaction stuff. And within that function, we call the loosely coupled way of calling the interfaces in our session provider slots that can be injected flexibly in a composition style with whatever implementation implements this protocol / interface. That sounds pretty good to me. So it's kind of like a mix of object-oriented programming and a bit of functional programming, in the sense that we use helper functions, right? Not with monads and all that stuff of functional programming. Actually, there's a great podcast. No, let's not go down that side quest. At some time we talk about functional programming in a bit more detail, but not now, not today. So yeah, so that kind of hides this internal complexity, but in a nice way, on a better way, and then we just give back the result this session. Okay, recommending for your code base. Now I'm interested in what the verdict is. Given your preferences for composition and loose coupling, I recommend remove the convenience method. Exactly. I'm all for that. Make component relationship explicit. Yep. Document the responsibility. Yep. Update client code to use appropriate clients. Consider creating composable functions. Yep. Yes. I love that. This was a nice interaction, and maybe Yellow, if you watch this after the fact, I mean, even though this is like pretty down in the nitty-gritty of object-oriented programming, but you could do the same thing for anything that's code related in your quest of becoming a programmer or a coder, or however you want to call yourself. Cool. So what I would do now is not to jump the gun, but to have the model consolidate everything we just talked about with the code examples and put it in my learning repository, which, if you haven't watched yesterday's live stream, which you probably haven't, it's living here in learning, right? So I would, the chat should also be able to create documents, right? So I don't think we need to switch to the agent mode. Let me just think about how to phrase this. Your reasoning is spot on. I completely follow it. I go with your recommendation. But before we actually do it, please consolidate the learning and our conversation in a bit and make it explicit by adding it to our our Quarto learning compendium in the learning directory. To polish this a little bit more. Learning. There's also a glitch. I realized a UI glitch, UX glitch. if you want to reference learning directly by typing add and then typing out learning, the directory does not show up. So the workaround that I currently use is to only type add, then choose files and folders up here, and then type learning. Then apparently, or for some reason, it shows up. It does also not show up in here. It does, but sometimes folders don't. So you cannot access it by scrolling. Oh my. By scrolling sometimes, and then just try that. Just try typing it out, but after you've selected files and folders. This seems to work for me. Your reasoning is spot on, and I completely follow it. I go with your recommendation, but before we actually implement it, please consolidate the learning. Consolidate our conversation. No, not consolidate. I don't want to cut anything short. Just please polish our conversation just a bit so we can persist it in our learning compendium. Quarto-based learning compendium. In the learning directory. Just to be sure. Please reason about the structure of the Quarto compendium before you actually propose something. All right. Let's switch to Sonnet thinking for this. That's a huge shout out to Cursor. I don't even know if, I don't know how it is in Windsurf, but I really like the ability to switch models mid convo, basically. So I think that's a really good idea. Or they really cool that they implemented that. Sometimes I swallow some syllables. So it was important for me to give that kind of instruction out because Quarto can be, I love Quarto, but to get it working correctly and then not destroying or shooting yourself in the foot can be a bit of a struggle sometimes. What I don't like about this, that it doesn't have the typical meta information. Seems like it at least. I suggest the content should be added to learning core concept composition as it extends the existing discussion. Okay. Let's see. Core concepts. Oh, that's why it doesn't have the... It just wants to add it. I'm not sure if I want to make this... Wouldn't want to make this a separate file, basically. Like a chapter or a page. I don't know. Foreign force to establish Quarto, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Alternative, you could create a new file and practical examples. No, I don't want to be just a practical example. Based on inbox, you might want to use the agent. Yeah. Yes, please put it in the composition.qmd file and also use the angle bracket agent and angle bracket CMB tags to distinguish between the different parts of the conversation or speakers. Oh, nice. It did the composition.qmd. It recognized this. Let's just really make sure it's using the right file. Angle bracket. This one didn't work. So this is something still needs to get fixed in order to make voice typing and Jarvis-like coding experiences really make it happen basically. But this is already so cool that we can do stuff that we are able to do now with the tools and the models that we're having. Just fascinating time to be alive. I really have to put it that, like, what's the word here? This, I'm lacking the word. You know what I mean. I know it's a bit poetic maybe, or a bit over the top, but I do have at least 2 to 3 times per week this moment of, damn, this is really cool. It's so cool that we can do that, or this is happening. All right, let's see. Real world agent, SQLite manager. So we got all the Python examples, I think. Benefit of antifragility, for antifragility. Yeah, I like that. It's the complete conversation, basically. It's good. It's good for my learning and recollection. So now I don't want to implement you to implement it. Wait. Agent. Please use the init, the MCP server tool for applying the init template for implementing the change. Yes. So all the changes, proposed changes, are already there, but I kind of intervened. And I think Cursor is built well enough that we can kind of roll back. I mean, I could always explicitly roll back, but not every time. You know, there's no immediate hooking point for jumping back. So I'm trusting that overriding the directive will automatically reject the propositions. I didn't accept anything yet, right? So, but we'll see. So first of all, obviously we need to run the date command because we're creating a game plan here. So the change basically is too big and too important for me that I just want the, let alone the chat functionality, not the agent take this over, right? I want it to be done according to my plan, which I basically laid out in my prompt template that I'm now calling, or told the coding agent to call from my MCP server, or to use, or however you want to call that. So we have our little game plan document. Now I need to really pay attention to what I'm accepting and not. We have the mandatory confirmation required, which is good. Now we are calling the, let's see, let's use the adapter.py file and the get session to see if this will disappear once the model gets actually going with implementing changes based on the game plan by yet another of my prompt templates, or following yet another of my prompt templates, which is, please call the MCP server tool for proceeding according to our game plan, our current game plan. And obviously the current game plan is, what is it? Refactor. Interesting. Refactor. It's not there yet. No problem. Wait, that's the one we just created, right? It's the 5th, yeah. So let's just pull it in here. This one should be completed. We can move that to, oh, interesting. Didn't we have an archive yet? Now we do. Yep, and off we go. So the assessment, as I said a bit earlier, well, quite a bit earlier in the live stream, I will, for the root cause analysis and fix prompt template, I need to find, or I want to find better, easier to consume headers. For example, confirmation type 6 is basically just a model coming back to, hey, I just want to tell you I follow your prompt template, which took a time to get right. So I'm rejoicing every time I see this, but it's getting too cryptic, right? Also, there should be a line break, so it's just a bit easier to consume visually. The game plan reference, I will be working with this game plan, perfect. Confirmation type, I am implementing stage 1, perfect, and it goes about it. So now I need to check the SQLite adapter has the get session method and engine property before trying to modify it. Let's see. I need to check one more thing, actually. Should have checked that before. Engine property from SQLite, Postgres. I want to see how it actually implements it now, or wants to implement it now. No, this is a bit too jumping too short, as we say in German. How do we best proceed from here? So let me find the right. Sorry about being quiet. I need to concentrate and to think about how best really make sure I actually want to go back here. This one is still okay. Now I need to see that I don't shoot myself in the foot. This is the context. This is context on what paradigm I would like to use, implement. Convo. No. Please take the context of the attached or from composition file on what parameters I'd like to include. No, let's do it actually even in a better way. So, sorry for jumping a bit. I hope this works and that we didn't completely confuse the model by now. But we go back to the chat mode. Please synthesize your recommendations into that I signed off. I signed off on see composition, see section. This is probably overkill, but I just want to be really sure that we choose the right things, or we do the right path forward, basically. Section starting from in this file. Please synthesize what your recommendation that I signed off on into a concise, as detailed as needed, detailed as necessary, and concise as possible prompt for continuing in agent mode. So it's thinking. The thinking has also changed in the latest version of Cursor. It's it's in this, you know, kind of like collapsible portion and not displayed as is basically in the convo. And let me see. So continue implementing database adapter. Yeah. I'm not going to check it in detail. I think this should be enough with all the context in that conversation that we're still having to say, let's go for it. I do keep it at the model at 3.5 sonnet thinking though, because I just want to, you know, be really confident that we are doing as much refactoring in the right direction as we can with as much reasoning and thinking. And I'm fine with, you know, for example, I actually don't know if protocol is a class we need to define ourselves, or if it's one of the abstract, you know, the abstract building blocks that we can leverage, that ships with Python and or an abstract auxiliary module, basically, of this, or if this is something that we need to define ourselves. Yeah, the thing is, yep. Just to be absolutely sure, I also want to stress the aspects explicit interfaces and dependency injection. And explicit dependency. Explicit taken from composition. I'm not sure if this is going to work again with copying it. No, it's not. See the referenced parts taken from this document. So this one's the first, or maybe let's actually do the entire thing. Let's add this just to be sure. Right, we do have, before we only had, I think I need to review the code, obviously, a async and sync session provider. I don't think there was a clearing, like a combining meta instance of just a session provider. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm making it too complicated, but I don't think so. I cannot jump to the definition from this Quarto doc. So let's move on. I think this is enough just to absolutely sure. I want you to stress the aspect. Please make absolutely sure that you account for those nuances and reason about and thoroughly reason about step by step how you want to implement it. Modify the game plan as needed before actually starting with the first stage. So this should be enough precautionary things, measures. So I wouldn't give too much about what's written here. You're absolutely right to emphasize these critical aspects. But it does modify the game plan. So I think it made sense that we were extra cautious. Components implement explicit interfaces. Dependencies are explicitly injected. Yeah, it's definitely good. I like that it's explicitly stated in here. In the game plan, I will just accept that file. I'm interested in... Okay, it didn't stop again, so this is still like the old issue. I would have rather liked it... Well, I'm actually interjecting. Please call the MCP server tool for proceeding. Because the proceeding prompt template does contain lots of stuff. Well, it's just meant for tackling explicitly the implementation phase, whereas the init prompt template is to is mainly focused on or concerned with structuring the thing. Actually, the game plan is gone, so let's actually add that as an explicit mention here. Context, that's what it's called. Yeah, so I'm just feeling better with the model using the proceed template, but then to just start implementing after going through the init template, right? That's why I did this intervention step, basically. Oh, interesting. Nope, we need to go back, please. Let's go back here with the game plan and start with stage 1. So it jumped to stage 2 because I think I was a little late. This is still something I need to figure out, is to have like the breakpoints that I want the agent to, the breaks that I want the agent to take, basically. Sometimes if it's not really explicit, or if we are, you know, if we're only calling tools and then the agent does its thing according to the prompt template, and one directive is to, hey, stop and ask for confirmation, that works like in 90% plus of the cases. It tends to forget certain directives if we enter or interject some more interactive parts into our conversation before I tell it, hey, follow now, follow with the thing, right? And or with your template or your plan. I think it's all doable, and sometimes a part of it will not be, you know, manageable in a systematic, completely systematic and automatic manner, reliably. So you always kind of need to keep watching and interjecting or intervening as soon as you think, hey, this is not completely what I want. I think this will not go away anytime soon. But model providers and cursor windsurf companies prove me wrong. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong here in that regard. Well, always, in all regards. All right, implementing stage 1. Cool. So the current state has a convenience method. That's exactly what it's gone now, right? The get session was kind of like provisioned to be created as an convenience method within the SQLite adapter, and it's gone now. So that's good. Good news. SQLite adapter implementation. All right, this one is already good. Streamlit app usage. Use the convenience method. We need to change that. Convenience methods are referenced in various documentation, so we need to change documentation. Component structure. The Postgres adapter has a session provider and connection manager. The convenience methods simply delegate to these components, which is good for now. I didn't read anything about the composer functions that the model suggested we use at some point, but it doesn't need to be all in one step, right? So the step 1 was the assessment and documentation. We did that, and maybe I was too quick. No, we should be starting with stage 2. I don't like that it's running ahead again. For the remainder of the game plan, implementing the game plan, please always stop after completing and provide a concise git commit message. Let's make this. Let's scream this. Sometimes you unfortunately still need to scream. I nevertheless say please and thank you. Or I don't say thank you that much, but I say please a lot. So it should counteract or balance out the screaming, hopefully. No, you should not. So give me the commit message for stage 1, please. That's cool that you can override simply by typing, and you don't need to stop the agent, as was the case I think in Cursor and Windsurf before, like a couple months back. I'm not sure how it is currently with Windsurf. As I said in the earlier parts of the live stream, I do want to test things out and get back into Windsurf a bit more. Let's see what we actually have here. Yeah, it's fine. Proceed by calling the appropriate tool, please. So stage 2 is concerned with removing stuff from the SQLite adapter and moving things one step further up the composition chain, basically, or the interface chain. Ensure components implement proper protocol interfaces. Yeah, I hope this will happen here. It's not laid out explicitly, but and trusting the model insofar as it taking the right. Let's see. Now I need to really concentrate. So where are we? We are in our adapter. It's just a comment removed here for database session component oriented approach. Okay. Did we though? Did we do all of this here? So we got the Postgres adapter. It's not inheriting from anything. I don't know if I like this. Async session provider. Oh, okay. This is what I was concerned with. It does inherit from the session provider, which is one thing up the stack. This in turn inherits from an abstract class. Before we had the protocol, in the example, the model basically gave. It's actually. Let's actually ask the model about this. So first, game plan. Yep. This should be the git commit message, yeah. Just wondering, currently our, oops. Wait. Session provider, that's what I was concerned with. Interfaces, line 94. Yep, exactly. This one is directly inheriting from the abstract class ABC. However, you proposed a slightly different setup in composition during our convo persisted in, and let's just quickly find this. I'm looking for this part. See referenced part related to, let's be really specific, session provider protocol. Provider. Please reason about this aspect in particular and modify the game plan if you think it's necessary. So the current implementation directly inheriting from the abstract class proposed in composition. Key differences. Enforces implementation at class definition time, which is good. So we enforce that every class inheriting from session provider defines all necessary interfaces. At least that's how I reason about this. Maybe this is not like operationally completely correct, but I think on a meta level, this is true. Uses explicit inheritance hierarchy, runtime verification of implementation, more traditional OP approach protocol, structural typing, duck typing. I like this better already. No explicit inheritance required. I like this as well. Static verification through type checking. Sure, definitely good. More aligned with composition patterns. Good. It's exactly what I thought. I'm happy that the carbon meatbag spotted this. Alignment with component-oriented design for truly loosely goosey coupling. No, for truly loose coupling, protocol is actually more appropriate because it focuses on behavior rather than inheritance. It's exactly what I want. Antifragile all the way, or on the quest, on the road to antifragility. It's less coupled. Cool. Better supports dependency injection and composition. It allows any object with matching interfaces to be used without inheritance. That's interesting. It allows any object with matching interfaces. So as long as the interfaces matches, that's perfect. That's Lego. I like that. The protocol approach is more anti-fragile because it reduces explicit dependencies between components. Good. Enables easier testing, less mocking complexity. I love that. Sometimes I had the feeling I spent more time getting the mocking stuff and the test fixture stuff sorted out than I actually spent writing the code or co-writing the code. Promotes program to an interface to over-inherit from a class. That's exactly what I want. Facilitates composition rather than inheritance. Okay. Yes. 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 That's exactly what I'm looking for. Before updating the game plan, please consolidate your reasoning into something that we can add to our composition.qmd file and or another file in our compendium if you feel it deserves a own page and or chapter. Well, weird. Learning composition QMD file. I'm a bit proud that I caught this and that I had the right hunch, right? And then maybe while the model is doing its thing, this, for me, I come back to stuff like that happens a lot. And I think it's a good thing because for me, at least from in my level of programming, this is my sweet spot that I move more and more into, right? I know I have learned a lot, enough programming by actually doing it myself that I still spot stuff like that. And obviously I still learn new stuff while I'm doing that as well. Sorry, just let me accept it does write it in the composition. Okay, I'm fine with that. It doesn't want to create a new file and we're updating our game plan. So I co-create with the AI quite heavily, basically laying out the way I'm doing it in the last couple of live streams. But I'm still mentally engaged in the code that is created, not with those fingers, but I still have the feeling that I take ownership. And I think that this is the new paradigm or somewhat of a newer paradigm that we're shifting to. And that's the important part. And I think it's okay, right? I do not say you don't need to learn how to program, because obviously you need to have done it enough so that you think in terms of code, of structures, of components, of coupling, of interfaces and all that stuff. And maybe like for any other craft as well, you need to have done it for a certain time before you actually reach that level. And possibly this is kind of like bad news or not as good news to people starting out. that you can not only learn by watching, you also need to learn and craft your thinking or shape your thinking by doing it. But I don't know. I mean, I've done it before AI was a thing. So there's no A/B testing, right? There's no test group in my own personality, at least, or track, life track or track I've taken. But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Basically, I also only wanted to say that I feel a bit proud that this, because this is a crucial thing here, a crucial design decision in our quest for trying to write more anti-fragile code, that we're choosing this implementation. So let's see. It's putting it down as a future thing. Not cool with that. I don't like that you put it down as a future thing to focus on. We need to weave this into our current game plan with new stages. If you feel like we need to take a step back and come up with a completely new game plan, then please say so. Yeah, so I definitely want to make sure that we either focus on it now, or I also need to kind of stop the live stream in a couple of minutes. Interface refactoring ABC2 protocol. Okay, so we refactor we move basically the testing and verification to a later stage, I think. Yeah, to stage 5. Yeah, I like this much better. Yeah, remove the future improvements section because we're dealing with it right now. I'm on board with this. What happened? I'm not quite sure why. It needs to have... Model apparently has some problems with changing the game plan itself. Okay, this was a weird sidetrack here in a way. Okay, it adds some reasoning. This is part of my prompt template, right? That's why this is the game plan. I like that the game plan contains stuff like this, because I think it is beneficial in the having that in the model's context while it's doing stuff. Okay, revise the update. It somehow it does not seem to be able to do git stuff. Let's do it on our own. Oh, sorry. I was a bit too... It only checked the status. It does the adding and the commit here in the next step. Sorry, model. Yep. Okay. I think I'll manage to... No, let's actually end it here for now, for today. I also think that stage 4 should come before stage 3. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to refactor our, ABC versus protocol setup regarding our classes and our components before refactoring the Streamlit side of things in our little example app. So yeah, I think I want to call it a live stream at this point. Maybe going back to showing the Miro board once more. Lots of stuff, lots of side quests today before actually diving into the code. But I had fun doing so. I think it helps in, I don't know, explaining myself on this weird stuff that I want to do and why I want to do it. Maybe it's not as weird. Maybe I don't feel special in any way, right? It's not meant in that way. But yeah, this entire thing about Lego bricks and nanobots and carrying those paradigms over to software engineering, or trying to do that, that's kind of my thing. I just, that's where I geek out. And yeah, everyone that wants to geek out with me, the next live streams are probably mostly related to stuff like that, because it's for me, it's an easy way to, you know, build out loud. I don't have the time at the moment to actually sit down, consolidate certain things, and then shoot a video just about this consolidated part. I want to do so. I have, like, it's a lot of fun to do so. I just don't have the time at the moment, but because I need to finish some stuff. But once I have done that, there will also be, again, more like polished videos and not just live streams. And obviously I will also take the live stream material and turn it into shorter videos, or at least edited videos, right? Yeah, so whoever joined today, hope you had some fun. Hope you learned something. Hope it was useful. Reach out in the comments. I love to interact with you. Also, now I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, also like and subscribe. I'm still trying to grow my channel, and every interaction, every like, every subscription greatly helps and is greatly appreciated. And with that, hope to catch you in the next one. Peace.